and welcome. Hello. Hello and welcome to the Crochet Chain podcast number 4, and it's for my mystery shawl crochet along. Okay, mystery shawl crochet along. Here we go. So these are my 2 shawls. I've actually got 3 shawls to show you because I've done an adaptation of the pattern at the same time as doing the pattern. Because this is based on the Find Your Fade shawl, which is knitted and has become very, very, very popular. And it's not because I'm trying to piggyback, I just think it's a lovely shape of shawl. And I thought I'd see if I could replicate it in crochet. So it's getting a bit chilly in the shade over here. I thought best not in the sun because it'll bleach out. Anyway, here we go. It's based on the shape is based on the Find Your Fade shawls that are knitted, and I will put a link down here because I'm let's share the love. Okay, but this is a crocheted version. Now what I'm really, really chuffed about is being able to do this. So what we've got here is we've got a decrease in the middle, but it's quite a significant decrease, and we have increases on both sides, because if you have a big decrease in the middle, you're going to have to do big increases on the outside as well. But I've managed to make it so that it's nice and straight. Now this has been blocked, so it is beautifully straight, of course, because it's been blocked. And you can see here that it's I've kind of gone sort of more stripy than fadey on this. Now if you wanted to use 2 yarns that were closer together in colour, then you might get more of a fade effect. If you wanted to change colour in different places, then of course that's completely up to you. But so this is the shawl. So we start off at the point. Now yeah, it was really difficult to work out this point because I'm trying to increase and decrease at the same time, so that I've still got this inverse V going on, even right down, almost right down to the point. I think there's the first 3 rows. I think it's the 3rd row we start doing a decrease, not quite as big, and then it gets a bit bigger, and then the decrease goes on here. Now what I like about this as opposed to the Find Your Fade is that there's a spine running through, so the middle decrease has a hole. Now I tried it a couple of different ways to see which I preferred, and I did try it with a decrease that was a solid decrease. It's not that I didn't like the effect, but I think I prefer this effect. Does that make sense? It's not that it wasn't nice, it was just that this was better, and I think this makes this lie flatter as well, rather than having a big decrease. So you can see it quite clearly in that plain section. So it does run through the lace section because it's done in exactly the same way all the way up, but you can see it much more defined, particularly there when I've got a dark colour behind. So you can see this little spine that runs through. And it's quite a large 2 skein shawl, okay, but it does this, and then at the end it kind of goes off into a point here. Okay, so I am actually loving this shawl now that it's done. My original one, which I'll show you in a second, the purple one, this one is my tester's shawl. So this was made for me by Rachel. Thank you, Rachel. It was Aaron Handmade. She tested this for me. She has quite a loose tension, so I'm sure she probably used a smaller hook than I recommended, but to get gauge. Now I like to use as much as possible of the yarn, so these shawls are designed so that there's not much yarn left over at the end. So it's not the tension is not important, in that it doesn't really matter because it's a shawl, so it doesn't matter what size it is, but I don't want you to run out of yarn. Okay, that's not good. I already did that. I don't want you to do that. I actually shortened or started to decrease earlier on this pattern, on the tested pattern, than on my original. Now I'm going to show you my original. Now these 2, the green one and the purple shawl, have both been made with mint bee yarns. So here we go. This is mint bee. the lovely Marie at Mint Bee, and she does these amazing luxury yarns at really very reasonable prices. So we're talking, these were, and I'm going to get my little notes out. Actually, that's quite good because it shows you the shape of the shawl there. You can see the shape that it's going to be. So these are two slightly different yarn bases, but they've worked really well in here. They've both got some silk, so that gives them a similar feel when you're using them. You could choose to have the same base for both colours. You could choose colours that are closer together or colours that are more contrasty. Completely up to you. These are both a 4-ply fingering weight. The purple version is Bee Opulent, so that's the purple here. It's a gorgeous colour. Okay, that's Bee Opulent, which is 60% merino, superwash merino, and 20% silk, and 20% yak. I know, yak. Who knew? But it's gorgeous. It's so soft and beautiful to use. So that's Bee Opulent, which is 60% merino, 20% silk, 20% yak, in colourway Cadbury Girl. Now, Marie offered, I think it's closed now because she's dying so that she can send out. I don't know how many orders she's had, but I'm sure if you sneaked in an order now, I'm sure she would be fine with that. Or you could probably message her on Etsy and see if she would be happy to make another set. But Cadbury Girl is the colourway, because you know it's the colour of our favourite chocolate bar. It's beautiful, and actually you can see there it's not just one, it's a semi-solid, so it's kind of purple, but with, think of a Cadbury wrapper kind of crumpled up, you know, and you can see different colours in it. That's kind of the effect that you get. And it's contrasted with Bee Scrumptious, which is 80% merino and 20% silk. So both have got 20% silk. One's got slightly more merino. And it's the high twist silk. And so that's the Ella colourway, which is just so pretty. It's got some purpley bits in it, so that's why I picked it, because it kind of matches with the little purpley bits. But it's also got like little rainbows, and it was lovely to crochet, because as you're doing it, it sort of changes colour. Each little thing changes colour. The green one here is the same two yarns, I believe. Let me just double check. Yes, is the Bee Opulent is in a semi-solid green colourway, which is unnamed, so we don't have the name of that one, but I'm sure if you contacted Marie that she'd let you know if she could dye it again. And then can you see this lovely green multicoloured one, and that one is called Jingles. And so the green multicolour, and again it's got some of those little bits of green in there, but it's also got some sort of pinky colours, and it just looks really, really pretty. Really pretty. So that's these two. I'll show you this one now. This is the one that I did. I had to undo from here, about here, which is actually about half the shawl. I've undone it twice, which means I've done this section, the end section. I've done this end section 3 times just to make sure that I got it right. I did have a bit of yarn left over, not a lot, so do be a bit careful, not a lot, but I just really love how this has come out now. I'm really pleased with it. My original version had an extra thin stripe because I ran out of yarn, and so I've pulled it back so that I know that there's going to be enough yarn, because I don't want you to run out. Of course, if you use some skeins that have got 400 metres or something like that, then you won't have to worry, because you've got 20 odd metres extra. Okay, so this is the Zennor shawl, and it's just, I'm just loving it. You can't really see the whole effect here. Let's hold it the right way up. You can't really see the whole effect here, but it's just lovely, and you will see some pictures later. And the final thing is that I'm going to be releasing sorry about this, oh, it's a bit chilly. I'm going to be releasing a little bit later, because I haven't had a chance to completely finish the pattern yet. I'm going to release what I'm calling Zennor Quoit. So it's based on the Zennor shawl. It's very, very similar to the Zennor shawl, but it's properly fading. And the reason it's properly fading is because I used a Sheppies or Shepgies, or can't remember quite how you pronounce it, a Sheppies Whirl. And I've done it in a colourway, which I will tell you in a second. Oh, I've lost it. Some would say I lost it a long time ago. So I got some Sheppies Whirl. I'm just going to show you the middle of this. So Sheppies Whirl. Now I'm hoping to stock a few colours for this shawl so that I can do it as a kit. But after the last two shawls have been released, and this colourway is called Fruity O Tutti. Okay, so it's a Sheppies Whirl and it's Fruity O Tutti. Got a cat just come to hello. You gonna come and say hello? No? Okay. You know what cats are like. Anyway, I'm dead chuffed with this. Now, this hasn't been blocked yet, so it's going to be bigger than this. Now, because the two yarns that you've used for this is why it's an adaptation of the pattern, is that a Sheppies Whirl has 1,000 meters on it, and obviously 366 times 2 is 720 something, 730 meters or so. So it's about a quarter more, a third more, or three-quarter. It depends which way you say it, but there's more yarn in a Sheppies Whirl. So I've adapted the pattern. I've made it bigger. And a Sheppies Whirl is 60% cotton, 40% acrylic, I think. Let me double check that for you. It is 60% cotton, 40% acrylic. So it has a different feel. It's much more cottony, probably more suitable for the summer. Now, this is right out of my yellow, right out of my comfort zone. And as I say, this hasn't been blocked yet. Actually, this shows you what happens when you block. My other ones are nice and flat, and look how this is curling. And you can see the ridges of the pattern as I've done the trebles. So once this is blocked, I will show you. So I'll show you probably next video. But you can still get the idea, is that because we haven't got stripes, because it's one colour, there's no stripes. So I've used the eyelet holes as stripes. So where on this shawl, hang on a second, where on this shawl at the point you've got these 3 stripes where it changes colour, on this one you don't have stripes as such, so I've made the eyelet holes. So there's a different variation on the eyelet holes, and we go and we go and we go, and you can see why I like this, because it's the fading effect. Okay, I've done that upside down again. Let me go start again, start this side. Here we go. Okay, no ends tucked in, nothing, because I've only just finished. Okay, so I'm going to block this in the next couple of days. If we get a nice day, I might try and block it outside. But you can see how this changes and fades, and it just is lovely. It's not my usual colourway, but it works in almost the same way. There was, again, not very much left over, so I might recommend a smaller hook than I actually did it in. And I just think it just looks amazing. I'm so pleased with this pattern. And you can wear it. I think this is more of a over the shoulder type shawl rather than the way that I usually wear shawls. So I think this is more one of these. And then, kind of bringing it around. But it is just, I quite like this colourway, even though it's not really, yellow is not my colour. But actually I quite like this shawl. And you can do, it's quite large, so you can do quite a lot with it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I think I've talked for long enough. I hope you enjoyed my update. Oh, quick thing, questions. if you have any questions, don't forget to put your questions down below in the comments, and I will answer any questions that you have. Ask me anything. I'm open to anything. So if you've got a project that's really getting on your nerves, that is really difficult, if you've got a question about how to start or how to finish, or a technique thing, or how to get straight edges or something like that, let me know, and I will try and do a little mini tutorial in the podcasts. I can answer questions on pretty much anything crochet, so don't be afraid to ask. I also kind of specialise in lots of different techniques, so if you've got any questions about broomstick crochet, hairpin, Tunisian, or any of those, tapestry, I love doing amigurumi. Any questions, just ask me in the links down below. And I look forward to seeing you next time, maybe outside, I don't know, it might be inside, it might be raining at the end of May, who knows. The weather's been so unpredictable. One of the ladies yesterday said there was sleet last week, so we've had sleet and sun, and just, it's mad, isn't it? Planet's gone mad. I think it's the most variable I've ever known weather, but this is not a podcast about weather. So have a lovely month, and don't forget to stay hooked on crochet, get hooked on crochet. We can do just as much as those knitters, possibly even a little tiny bit more. So I look forward to seeing you next month, and I'd love to see some of you in person. So if you see me around, if you see me at any of the festivals, particularly say Wool at Junction 13, don't be afraid to come up and just say hi, because I would love to chat. I love to chat. That's why I do this. So keep hooked on crochet, and I will see you next month. Bye. Hello and welcome to the crochet chain tutorial video for Zennor shawl. This one is I'm working on a small sample, so the beginning of the shawl is fairly self-explanatory. I'm just going to show you a few things at the beginning, how to colour change, and then how the lace parts work. So to start off with, we have our little V shape. So we're going to have a V shape, even though we've started with treble 2 together over 3. This one here is showing a treble 2 together over 5, and I'll go into detail in a minute about how you do that. So the first thing we're going to learn is how to do a half double treble stitch. So I wanted a stitch that was somewhere between a double treble and a treble, and so logic determined that it would be a half double treble. I was going to call it an adapted double treble, but it is a half double treble. So like a double treble, this is UK terms by the way, we yarn over twice before we insert our hook. These first 3 stitches go into the very first stitch in the row, so we're going in there. So can you see where the chain is? We're going into the very first stitch in the row. So we've yarned over twice, we're inserting our hook, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over and through 2 loops, and then this is where the half double treble comes in. We're going yarn over and through all 3 loops. Okay, I'll just do that again for you. So we're going to start here with yarn over twice, insert into the very first space, yarn over and pull through, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 3 loops. One thing just to be a little bit careful is that this top loop here doesn't get too big. It is a bit gappy, and you'll see how that affects the work on the following rows in a minute, but just try and make sure it's not too big up the top there. Okay, so the stitch after that is a treble into the same place. That creates part of our increase at the outside edges, and then we're going to do 2 trebles into the next stitch. So we're going to do 2, 1 and 2 trebles. That's just ordinary trebles, again UK terms. Then we go 1 treble in each stitch along until we get to this centre portion, and it's a really good idea and helps with the rhythm of the shawl if you can identify the 3 stitches that we're going to be doing our treble 2 together over. So it's these 3 in the middle. I'm going to put it down so I can point to them better. So you've got the treble before the decrease here. You have the decrease, which sort of looks a bit sort of squatted, if that makes sense. It's a bit bundled here. Okay, and then you've got your treble afterwards, and we're actually going in the stitch before and after those trebles. So I'm going to treble along, which I think for me is going to be 3 trebles. For you it'll be however many that you have in your pattern row. When we go into our trebles, we always go underneath 2 strands as far as possible. Okay, so here I can see my 3 central ones. There's one there, so I need 1 more treble here. And then I'm going to do my treble 2 together over 5 stitches. And how we do that is we go yarn over, insert into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over through 2 and stop with 2 loops on our hook, and then we're going to skip the next 3 stitches. And as I said, it is quite tricky to identify that 3rd middle stitch as it stands, but we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and we're going into this one here. Okay, so you're going to yarn over into that stitch after we've skipped 3, yarn over and pull through 2, and then you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. That creates a treble 2 together over 5 stitches. Okay, and then we're going to carry on with some trebles. So we're going to do, I did 3 before, so we'll do 3 now. And then as you get to the end, now it looks like here that I've got 2 stitches left to go into. I haven't, I've got 3. I've got the turning chain here. So we're going to do 1 more ordinary treble. And then we're going to do 2 trebles into this stitch. Now this is the half double treble from the previous row. You can see that the very top of the stitch is a bit loosey-goosey, yeah, so it can be a little bit tricky to work out where you're going in. It is, if you think of the chain at the top here, this top part of the stitch as the bit that you're going under, and this strand just here is going to be underneath the hook. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to do 2 trebles into this space. And then our final increase, because we have symmetrical increases at this point, so is in the top of the turning chain. So we've got our turning chain here, 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th chain is the one that's sort of coming out of where your last 2 trebles went. So the top of that stitch, you can see this loop here, and that's the loop we're headed for. So we're going to go in there under 2 strands, yarn over and pull through. So we're going to do a treble, then we're going to do our half double treble, which is yarn over twice, insert into the same place, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, and then yarn over through all 3 loops that are left. That's a half double treble, and then an ordinary double treble at the end, which is yarn over twice, insert into the same place, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2, careful, and yarn over through 2. Again, it is quite easy to make this loop a little bit too big, so just keep an eye on that. and that's your next row. So we've got large increases at each end. They do look different because this one's a turning chain, so it does curve a little bit. And then we've got our 1, 2, 3 stitches into 1, 2 stitches into 1, singles, and then our treble 2 together over 5. I'm going to do that again for the next row, but a little quicker. So we're going to do 4 chains, which counts as our first double treble, and turn. A little tip: if you turn away from you like so, then when you come back along the row, those trebles will be facing you, so it's easier to get into that very top chain. Okay, so a little tip that I learned not so long ago. So once you've done your chains for your next row, if you turn your work away from you, then they'll line up. We're going to do a half double treble, so it's yarn over twice, in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 3. Then a treble into the same stitch. So these are into the same stitch as we've done the chains. Do a treble. Then we do 2 trebles into the next stitch, which is the one that should be looking a bit flippy floppy, but somehow doesn't from this side. So we're going to do 2 trebles into here. Oh dear. See, it happens to the best of us. 1, 2 trebles into that stitch. And then we're going to go along using trebles until we get to that middle section where we're going to treble each side of those 3 there. There's some marking that's got spun in, isn't it? Don't think it's my cat's fur. Okay, that's better. See it better now. Okay, so if you can identify that we're going into here and into here for our double treble 2 together and skipping these 3 stitches in the middle. Okay, I'm just going to treble along to that middle section. Okay, so we're now going to do our treble 2 together over 5. So we're going to go yarn over, in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 and stop, skip 3 stitches, yarn over, insert into that one there, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, so that we've got our double treble, no, not double treble, treble 2 together over 5 stitches. As you work this shawl, you will start to identify where that decrease is. Also remember that when you're counting stitches, that middle stitch, which is quite big looking, is actually counted as 1 stitch, not 2. So for all the stitch counts, this here counts as 1 stitch. Okay, so just going to get to the end, near the end. So again, we're right near the end. This is my last treble, and then we're going to do 2 trebles into the top. Can you see we've got our turning chain here, and that's the top of our last stitch. So when we're working in rows, the tops of our stitches are slightly to the left of the post of the stitch. If you're left-handed, they'll be slightly to the right. Okay, but we're just going in, so we're going to do 2 trebles into the top of this stitch, and as I said before, it's a little bit wibbly wobbly the top of this because this is a half double treble. So we're going to do 2, 1, 2 trebles into there, and then we're going to do the larger increase into the top of the turning chain. So we find the top of the turning chain just there. Okay, we're going in with a treble first, and then a half double treble, so yarn over twice, insert hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 3, and then an ordinary double treble, so that's yarn over twice, insert hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2 and 2 and 2. So that's the basic part of the shawl. So that's the basic stitches covered. So next I'm going to show you how to change colour, and what we're going to do, because we're not going to actually fasten off, we're going to move our colour up like we did with the Perrenport shawl. And so we're going to put our little place marker in here, and then we're going to add our new yarn in onto this one. And to do that, I'm going to make a slip knot. So make a slip knot with our yarn, tail yarn here, around, across, push the yarn through, okay, slip knot. And I'm going to just make it a bit smaller, snug but not too snug. Okay, and then we're going to turn our work over so that we've got the wrong side facing us, and then I'm going to insert my hook in the top of that stitch. You may have a different way of changing colour. Pop the slip knot on there, yarn over, pull it through the stitch, and then make our 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's how we start the stitch. Then the other 2 stitches go into here. Don't worry about the place marker and the yarn here, we can snug it all up a bit in a minute. I'll see you at the other end of this row. So when we've finished our next row, we're going to go back to the beginning. Now it's useful to actually have 2 place markers, so you can put that one in before you take that one out. I've only got one in the second, so I'm just going to move it. So I'm going to take my place marker out from here and put it in this one. I'm going to take my, oh no, wrong place. Okay, put it on this loop, and I'm going to insert my hook into this loop that's here, the working loop from the yarn A. I'm now going to show you how to do the slip stitches up the side of the chain that we're going to do. Now this is the same whether you've got just 1 row to go up or 2 or 3. We're going to slip stitch up, and you might find that 2 slip stitches is enough. You might feel that you want to do 3 slip stitches up the side of the chain. It's up to you. We don't want this to get any tighter than it is currently. I've done 2 slip stitches, so I go into the second stitch up. I always kind of do two strands on that side, yarn over, pull through, but I'm going to make sure that this loop, can you see, is quite big, so that it's just looping up the side like that. Okay, and then my second one, and I'm pulling that up a little bit more again so that it's a nice big loose loop. I mean, not too loose, but loose enough. And then we're going into the top of the chain here. So remember, this is your second stitch, and because now we're working from the fronts of the stitches, the right side of the stitches, this half double treble is not the first stitch of the row. The 4 chains, which counts as a double treble, is the first stitch. So our increase has to go into the top of this chain here. Yarn over and pull through. So we've got 2 slip stitches running up the side, 2 slip stitches running up the side of the chain, and that hasn't made it any tighter. I mean, it's tight, but it's no tighter than it was before. We're then going to do our 4 chains, our half double treble. Now this is a little trickier because, again, you must not go into this loop. you've still got to go into the top of the chain. So we're going into here, and once we've done our 3 stitches, it almost disappears. Next stitch is a treble, also into the same place. So now we have to find the second stitch to put our 2, and it kind of looks like it might be this one, but it's not. It's this one here. Okay, so it's this one here that we're looking at now. It looks a bit strange because it's the half double treble. It looks a bit strange, but we're going to put a treble in, and what we're going to do is going to go in just underneath these 2 strands like so, and we're going to do 2 trebles into that stitch. It's still looking a little odd, a little awkward, but trust me, that is the right place to go. If you don't do this, what you'll do is you'll end up with not enough stitches here, which means not enough increases, which instead of being a nice triangle shape, it's going to be sort of squarish. We don't want that. We don't want a square shawl, we want a nice triangular shawl. So it does look a little gappy, it does look a little odd, but that is exactly where it needs to go. And when you do the blocking, this will all straighten out so that it's nice and straight like this, and it will create the point that we want to see. So I'm going to finish this row and I'll meet you at this end. When we get to this end of the row, it's easier to see the 2 stitches that we need to go into. As I said, the top of the stitch, because we're the right side of this row, the top of the stitch is slightly to the right. If you're left-handed, it will be slightly to the left. So we're going to do 2 trebles into this stitch. And then we're going to do 1 treble. You can see the working loop there. 1 treble, 1 half double treble, and 1 double treble into this stitch. Okay, and so that's the end of a colour changing row. And as I say, when you change colour, you may have more than 1 row to work up, but you do it exactly the same way. Keep working up until you find the hole that you're meant to be in at the top of the stitches. So now we're going on to the lace section. I have included this chart if it helps you, and I will refer to it in a minute to show you what's what. I found it very hard to write this chart in the software that I've got because of the way of the increases, so I'm hoping this will do the job. If not, the instructions are quite clear as to what you do and where you go. When I was designing, I actually used this was my chart to help me to work out what I was doing, but you know, that's my sketching, and you don't really want to see that because this is probably complicated enough looking. Once you know how to read charts, they're actually very easy to read, and a very easy way of reading international patterns especially. I have had to invent a symbol for the half double treble because that doesn't exist. Another reason why the software wasn't really going to work. So this is my symbols for a treble and a half double treble and a double treble, but we only ever use these on this edge, and it's just now how we incorporate that into the eyelets section. So we're going to start with the first row. So the first type of increase we have is actually we have 5 chains, and the 5 chains are the same as 1 double treble and 1 chain. So effectively we've got 2 stitches at that end. We then do a treble into the same stitch there. Okay, and then after we've done that, we do a treble and a chain in the next stitch. So that's our first stitch. We're going to do a treble and a chain. So we're still doing 2 stitches, but we've got a chain in between. So we've still got our 5 stitch increase over 2 stitches here, but we've got 1 double treble and a chain, well, 4 chains and a chain space, a treble, and then a treble and another chain space. So on our first row of lace eyelets, we are going to then work directly into the very next stitch. If you follow the instructions carefully, it will tell you exactly what to do. We've double checked and I've had it tested, so hopefully it'll be as accurate as possible. If you do find any errors in the pattern, please do let me know, because nobody's perfect. We try, but nobody's perfect. Okay, so we're into the eyelet section now. So we're doing 1 treble, 2 trebles, and then a chain. So 1 treble in and skip 1. 1 treble in the next, whoops, 1 treble in the next stitch, 1 treble in the next stitch, 1 chain, and skip 1. And it just so happens we're coming up to our decrease. The decrease is done in the same way, but it varies where it comes in the lace section. So for this row, it may not be the same in the pattern, but for this row, there's 3 alternatives for the middle and for the edges, but they come in combination because it depends how many stitches you have in between as to which stitch comes into the middle. That's a design thing, so you don't need to worry. Just follow the pattern and it will show you. I'm just showing you the examples of what it would look like. So here we're going to do a yarn over into here. We're going to do our decrease, treble 2 over 5 stitches, so skipping 3 and then doing that. And then what will happen is we're going to do the reverse of this on this side. So we're going to do 1 treble, and then we're going to do a chain, skip 1, 2 trebles. This row is slightly easier because you don't have any chain spaces in the row below, because this is the first row of our lace eyelet-y bit. Okay, so we're getting up towards the end here, and at the end, apologies for coughing, I'm just still getting over my cold. So if you remember, at the end here we've got the 4 chains, and we're going into the top of the 4 chains, we're going into the top of our half double treble there. So we've got 1 more treble to do here, and then we're doing the reverse as what we did over this side. So we're going to do 1 chain and 1 treble into there, which is the same as 2 stitches, and then we're going to do into the top of the chain. It's a bit fiddly sometimes. There we go. We're going to do a, oops, and it came out, a treble. Keeps coming out. Treble, a chain, and then a double treble. So the chain is instead of our half double treble of the previous row. Okay, so there we have our first row with eyelet holes, and I can show you on here how this works. So we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, which count as a double treble, the chain which counts as the half double treble, and then that treble, and they're all into that double treble there. Then we've got a treble and a chain into the half double treble, and then we carry on doing treble, treble, chain, treble, treble, chain, treble, treble, chain, treble, treble, etc., all the way to the middle. Okay, on the next row, this is coming back. Obviously this changes when you on the other end, it looks different to this, but this just gives you the basic to start off with. Okay, so on this row now, you can see that we've actually got our 3 stitches are in the top of the chain, and then we've got 1 chain and a treble into the next one. This is so that we stagger our eyelets. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, which counts as our double treble. Turn. We're going to do our half double treble, and then our treble, all in the same place. Now on the chart it looks like a chain, but obviously when you've got to the end of the row you've got a solid double treble. So we've got our 3 stitches there, but then we've got our chain space here. So our chain and our treble go into our chain space. So we're going to do a chain and a treble into the chain space. If you want to, you can fiddle about and go into the chain, but honestly it doesn't make any difference, and so I've done all mine into my chain spaces. My tester, Rachel, thank you Rachel, did everything into the chain itself. So in the green shawl that you see in the pictures, the chain, the trebles in these sorts of cases have gone into the chain instead of the chain space, but it really doesn't matter which way round you do it. So once we've done that, we've then got 1 treble here, and then 1 chain, and then our next treble's in a chain space, and our next treble's in a treble, and then we have a chain space, and our treble's in a chain space, treble's in a treble, and then a chain space. This is so that we get a sort of a, it's clearer at this end, you get a kind of a diagonal line going through the lace. Okay, so I've done that bit, and we're going to do a treble into the next stitch. This is all written down in the pattern, so don't worry if you can't follow a chart. Then we're going to do a treble into the chain space, a treble into the next stitch, and then a chain over the second treble of the previous row. So treble into chain space, treble into stitch, chain, treble into chain space, and then we come here now. Oh, I've gone too far. So this is an interesting one because we're going to do our treble 2 together, but our 3 middle stitches, which are here, which are lovely and clear because we've got chain spaces each side. And so what we're doing on this type of middle one is that we're going into the chain spaces on either side to make our treble 2 together. So we're going to go yarn over into the chain space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, yarn over into the chain space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over through 2, and then yarn over through all 3 loops. Wasn't that easy? Okay, so no trying to find stitches or anything. That central spine, if you like, of our treble 2 together over 5 is continued through the lace section. Okay, so it's quite important that that continues all the way through all the sections. Okay, so then on this side we're actually going to make a chain, and then we're going to do 2 trebles, 1 into the treble and 1 into the chain space. Whoops. 1 into the treble and 1 into the chain space, and then a chain, and then 1 into a treble, 1 into a chain space, and a chain, skip 1, and here we're going in. Now if you remember, we did a chain 5 last time. Okay, so this time we're going to do a treble into this stitch, which is the last of the kind of the row. Then we're going to do a treble and a chain into the chain space. Okay, the chain space. This is row 2 of the eyelets, into the chain space. Then we're doing a, I do a chain? Yes, treble and, just checking. treble and a chain, and then in the 4th chain of this 5 chain loop, so we've gone over into the chain space which goes over one of the chains, and we can just double check that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 chains here, and we're going to do our 3 stitches, our 3 increase stitches into this 4th chain. So it's 4th chain counting from the bottom. Okay, so we're going to do a treble, a half double treble, so I can't see through the video, there, a half double treble, and then double treble. Sorry if my voice is cracking up, I'm recovering from a cold. So if I sound a bit deep or a bit crackly, that's why. Okay. Alright, so that's our 2nd lace row. I'm going to do a 3rd lace row, but I potentially might run out of yarn, but we'll see how we go. So our 3rd lace row, so it's the 3rd type of row, because when we get to this stage here, can you see that this end is the same as this but without the chains? So these are the same but the opposite end of the row. So there's only 3 different versions that you get at the beginning and end of each row. So this one we're going to do 4 chains, a half double treble and a chain into the 1st stitch, and then 2 trebles into the next stitch, and then start with a chain and a skip one into our lace eyelet row. So it's 4 chains, we're going to turn, we're going to do a half double treble into the top of the next, of the same stitch, sorry, and then we're going to do a chain. Then we're doing into the next stitch, which if you remember we have 3 complete stitches here, so this is quite easy, this one. We're going to do 2 trebles into that one, but then when we do our chain and start the lace, we are actually going to skip this stitch under here. Okay, so we're going to go in here and we're going to do 2 trebles, 1 in the chain space, 1 in the next stitch, and then a chain, and skip 1 into the chain space, 1 into the treble, and then a chain, and we continue that. So we're coming up to our middle section, and if you remember previously we had we went into the chain spaces here, but that means we've got chain spaces before and after our treble 2 together over 5. So we're actually this time going into the treble each side of this treble 2 together. So after I've done that one and this one here, we're then going to do a treble 2 together over 5, but we're using the solid trebles this time. There, and then we're going to do the other half over here. Okay, and then we're going to do a treble into the next treble, and a treble into the space, and then a chain, and chain, and then so we're right at the end here now, and we're going to do a chain and skip that last treble, and we've got our 2 stitches are here. Remember, we're going into the top of the turning chain here, and also the top of the half double treble, which is looking a little strange as it usually does. So we're going to do a 2 trebles, sorry, not a treble, we're going to do 2 trebles into the half double treble of the previous row, and then we're going to do 1 chain, which means we're missing the treble. We're going to do a half double treble into the top of that chain there, 2 and 3, sorry about the focus, and then a double treble into the last one. And that's the tutorial for today. So if you have a look, you can see that there are 3 different ways of doing the edges, and there are 3 different ways of doing that middle treble 2 together over 5. Here it kind of looks like we've got 2 stitches each side. Here we've got 1 stitch, and here it looks like we've got 3 stitches each side. But then it will go back, and then it will be 2 stitches, and then 1 stitch, and then 3 stitches again. So it has, the shawl has quite a pleasing rhythm, and once you start recognizing the stitches, you will start to see patterns in it, particularly in these eyelet rows of 3s, patterns of 3s. So enjoy this shawl. If you want to use the chart, please do. I'm going to pop it in there. If you find it confusing, just ignore it. You don't need it. The pattern is written perfectly well without it. When you do the decreases, I haven't gone over this, but when you do the decreases, what it is instead of doing these lovely big increases, we're just going to finish each row like that. So it ends up going straight and parallel to this angle here. Okay, and it creates a nice triangular scarf. And I hope you really enjoy this shawl. I've actually really enjoyed creating this one. It's been quite a challenge, but it's really enjoyable. So I hope you enjoyed the pattern as much as I enjoyed making it. And see you soon. I'll see you next month. Happy crocheting!